Two friends set out to break their personal deep diving record at Dean's Blue Hole after a series of progressively deeper dives. The dive started well until they encountered an uncontrollable fast descent. Dean's Blue Hole is a really deep underwater hole that's the second deepest in the world. It's found near Clarence Town by the ocean on Long Island in the Bahamas. The depth of the hole is 663 feet below the surface. If you swim away from the hole's center and go around it, something amazing happens. The water starts to get shallower, and soon enough, it's only as deep as your waist. So instead of being incredibly deep, it turns into a place where you can stand and walk around. One of the things that makes Dean's Blue Hole so amazing is that it's sort of surrounded and sheltered. The wind can't get to it, and because of that, the water stays calm without big waves. This makes it perfect, especially if you're just learning to swim. Many people believe that this place is one of the best in the world for diving and snorkeling. The water here is really clear, so you can see up to 100 feet underwater. If you're a diver who likes to be courageous, daring, and adventurous, this is the perfect spot for you. The most amazing part of this blue hole is the beach that goes all around it. On three sides, there are big rocks that form a natural amphitheater. On the fourth side, there's a lagoon with turquoise water and a soft white sandy beach. This is also the place where they hold the vertical blue freediving competition every year. During this particular summer, Malachi Hughes, who was 29 years old, and his friend Zach Prince, age 30, embarked on a deep dive adventure. They chose Dean's Blue Hole, and this particular dive marked their third visit to this ideal place. Their anticipation was quite high because their previous dive occurred 8 months before this one. They were accompanied on this underwater adventure by two more friends, Henry and Steve, who would play the role of support divers, ensuring the safety and success of Malachi and Zach's dive. Before the set date for their dive to the specific depth of 420 feet, these divers underwent a series of training sessions. This training regimen involved progressively deeper dives, helping them become more skilled and prepared. It's important to note that among all the divers, Malachi held the highest level of experience when it came to deep diving. He held a remarkable record for completing dives as deep as 400 feet, achieving this feat throughout more than 85 dives throughout his career. On the other hand, Zach had previously engaged in dives within the range of 350 to 380 feet. During their last underwater expedition at Dean's Blue Hole, Malachi and Zach managed to descend to a depth of 370 feet. However, their goal on that dive was to break their previous record by reaching a great depth of 420 feet. This marked a significant challenge and an opportunity for them to push their limits and excel in their diving career. With a strong commitment to their goal, they began their work by embarking on a series of deep dives. To kick things off, they completed a total of 20 dives, each reaching depths below 400 feet. Building on this achievement, they then proceeded to undertake an additional 15 dives, gradually getting closer to the impressive depth of 420 feet. Their practice dives went smoothly, and there were no difficulties encountered. This was significant evidence that they had mastered the art of diving beyond 400 feet. Following their practice dives, Malachi and Zach felt fully prepared to take on the daring challenge. Henry and Steve, the support divers, were more than ready to provide vigilant supervision throughout the dive. To ensure a safe and successful descent as they aimed for a new deep diving record, Malachi devised a strategic plan. He intended to use a weighted cable that would aid their journey into the depths. Adding an extra layer of precaution, he also incorporated a traveler's clip system into their gear. This system would allow them to smoothly slide alongside the divers, thereby enabling the precise recording of their maximum depth. All these careful arrangements were put in place with one primary goal: to safeguard the divers' well-being. This was especially crucial considering the potential risks associated with experiencing a narcosis attack underwater, which could lead to a gradual loss of consciousness. When divers encounter narcosis, they typically hold on to their breathing devices and continue to breathe. However, this duo had a unique strategy in mind. They wanted to make sure they stayed safe throughout their descent. Their plan involved inflating their buoyancy compensators fully as they went deeper underwater. They also attached weights behind their knees as an extra safety measure. Here's how it works. When they straightened their legs, these weights would automatically detach from their knees. This setup was designed to help them in case they lost consciousness during the dive. So if one of these divers were to experience a blackout, the weights dropping from their knees would cause them to rise back up towards Henry, who was stationed around the 300-foot depth. Henry's role was to be ready to rescue any diver in need. The team also had a clever idea for managing their depth. They fixed an engine block to the end of the cable that was 420 feet long. However, this cable wasn't unspooled before the dive began. Malachi was supposed to switch from the heavy fall-away weight system to an empty buoyancy device for the drop. Meanwhile, Zach stuck with the original system and went down using an inflated buoyancy device. Zach planned to use the safety advantage of having extra buoyancy along with a weighted bar. However, Malachi had a different view on this and chose not to use it. When Zach started his descent, he quickly discovered that he was in trouble. As he descended, he realized the cable they were using was slippery and had oil on it. His hands got oily too. Zach struggled to grip the inflator valve of the small tank that was filling his buoyancy device with air. The weights on his knees caused him to sink too fast. He couldn't get anything into his vest to reduce the excessive negative buoyancy. Zach went down as fast as 110 feet per minute. He thought that Malachi was not keeping up with him, and he was trying to wipe off his oily hands on his wetsuit. He never knew Malachi was descending as fast as 150 feet per minute. This was tough for Zach because he was using up a lot of energy due to the stress, especially as he went deeper underwater. Meanwhile, Henry, their support diver, was hovering at a depth of 300 feet and watching their dives. Malachi had gone so far into the deep, and somehow he lost control of himself. Henry noticed that the divers were in trouble in the deep, especially Malachi, who was descending faster. For this reason, he immediately descended below 360 feet. He was desperate to rescue him, but all efforts to do so proved abortive. Although Steve and Henry had determined they wouldn't exceed 300 feet, they had to go down more to help the divers because there was no other choice. Steve dove as deep as 330 feet, but due to the effects of narcosis, he couldn't go any further. Henry watched Malachi with great horror from a distance. Malachi was still breathing, but the uncontrollable speed of his descent was alarming. Eventually, Malachi's head ended up against the engine block, and he was still moving his legs softly like he was sliding down the cable. Meanwhile, Zach was almost losing consciousness at about 400 feet, and he began to have tunnel vision. He was doing his best to stay alive at that depth. He believed he might hit the engine block when he reached the cable's end. He hadn't used his inflator valve yet, but soon he got near Malachi, who was still conscious. Malachi assisted him in filling his buoyancy device with air. But he didn't realize how much energy he was using up while doing this, and before he understood it, he was affected by narcosis. This made Zach very scared, but he somehow managed to make himself go back up to where Henry was, at a depth of 300 feet. When Zach got there, Henry checked him out and assured him that he wasn't in serious trouble. It turned out that Malachi had saved Zach's life by helping him. But unfortunately, Malachi couldn't save himself in the end. After this, the divers had to rise to the surface, and they told the authorities about the unfortunate event. 2 divers who were trained for rescues got ready and went into the water. They were able to bring back the lifeless body of Malachi. All of Malachi's friends felt very sad and mourned the loss of their dear friend and brother. We would like to thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed watching, take a dive on the like and subscribe buttons and hit the bell icon so you get notified when we come back with another exciting diving story.